And I think that's when I had it was like the light bulb moment. I was like, I like bikes and I'm studying engineering. And I was like, I put the two together. I was like, I could do bike engineering.
Oh, hang on. Yeah.
We can pull that idea of suspension, number of links out and try and single it out and look at whether more complex is better or less complex is better. More simple. But it's always tied to something else.
Yeah.
Always and forever tied to something else. And that's the thing that for me keeps bikes interesting, and the development of them is that interlinking of every single thing. And while we always come back to this like F1, if you will, being an engineer in there and stuff, you don't get to go and drive an F1 car at the weekend.
Nope. Not many people do.
And you can develop DH bikes and go and rag the living daylights out of them at the weekend and stare at them while they have a beer. And that is the best part of bike engineering by far.
Yeah.
Is riding what you do.
It's exciting. Dan Roberts, welcome to the Downtime podcast, man. Thanks for taking some time out of a hectic World Cup. Well, not even World Cup, World Champs Week. We're here in Fort William. How are you feeling about that? First time this year at a race, is it, or not?
No, first time was Lenzerheide.
Ah, okay.
But this is a special one. And we didn't know whether we would come in or not, support some of the brands I work for, support some races and stuff. And it's always a bit of a late one, knowing whether people are selected or not. So we're a bit like, we don't know if we're coming or not. Hadn't got anything pre-booked. And then the opportunity came up with Neko Mulally to come. He was like, I'll offer you a place to stay. So I bit his arm off, booked the flights.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Good call.
I was here for the last World Champs here in 2007, so still got good memories of that. And Sam Hill winning and 6 people deep lining the track all the way down.
Amazing.
And, in the pissing rain. It was glorious.
So how old would you have been then?
Yes. Maybe it's a problem. The older you get, the worse you get, like figuring out the dates.
Yeah.
86, 2007, so 21.
Okay, yeah, fair play. So a racer back then? Yourself or?
Bits and pieces, not like you've got like hobby races. They'll do maybe one a year, which is probably where I'm at about now. You've got like your full-on guys that are going for it like every single weekend, don't seem to ride much, they just seem to race. And bit in the middle somewhere. Did a bunch of Pierce races. We ended up doing a bunch of like BMX races where they'd let you in the open class on a mountain bike and full cross a bit. And done some XC and downhill and enduro and stage races and stuff. Yeah,
because you grew up in like Pierce downhill country, right? Where did you grow up?
Nantwich.
Okay.
So floral market town in Cheshire. Yeah. Flat as a pancake, but surrounded by Wales, not far from like Scotland, but like so much good riding. Like it seems in Britain, every single hill has got a few trails on it. Yeah. Like Delamere Forest was my little haunt, or Mac Forest or Cannock Chase, those places. So I rode there and it's good round there.
It is really good. There's so much,
30-second tracks, but a lot of them.
Do you remember how you discovered mountain biking? Like where did that love for it come from in the first place?
I still vividly remember being bought a rally for Christmas one year, and it was red, like this kind of like funky paint job. It's quite nice, like a marble red. It was really nice.
Oh yeah, was that the Mustang?
No, it was like a Rally Max or something like that. When you look at it this year, it's not that special.
Right.
But I was a kid and it was like, mountain bike. And I got on the seat and the seat was slammed and my feet were like 4 inches from the pedals. And I just remember the weeks after it, like willing my legs to grow. It felt like an eternity staring at my legs like, come on, grow. And no. And we had a little kind of common little woods where we were, and people walked their dogs through it, and we ended up building some tracks in there. A couple of mates lived on the other side of the common, and we just built tracks, built jumps. Mates from school would ride up from Ravensmoor, which felt like miles away, but now it's just like half an hour ride. And just built jumps and things, and usually spent all day building the takeoff.
Yeah.
Got to about 5:30 before your mum would shout you in for tea, and realised that we hadn't built a landing and someone needed to guinea pig it.
And was that you?
Generally, yeah. I don't know whether looking back that was through selection of the group or just stupidity. Maybe both. But we'd generally guinea pig it, land, slip the pedals, and go home with like bloody socks.
Sounds about
my mum
right.
would shout at me. So ever since then, I've had like it drilled into me not to wear white.
Yeah.
So seeing the current trends in racing of white is still bringing back some tough memories.
Twitchy memories, yeah.
Do your own bloody washing.
Class.
Yeah.
Sounds very familiar. Yeah, because plastic pedals, no riding specific shoes, right?
No.
Grip to the pedal was not a thing back then.
No, grip to anything wasn't. Terrible
true
tires, rigid bike. Yeah. No, and like spun from there and started buying MB UK. Was I think the first magazine I bought, and then shortly after Dirt.
Yeah.
So I got into Dirt and really got into all that and just poured over it like endlessly, reading about mountain biking as like a proper sport and the races outside and the stories, what was going on and the pictures, and just I still have like most of my Dirt magazines at home.
Wicked.
It's so good. Still go for it. It's super nice. I don't have like the original ones and stuff, but like lots of old Dirts.
Yeah.
And you just... Yeah, it felt like a dream world, like Europe and this whole World Cup racing and stuff. And so I grew up on that, and then saved up for a Barracuda.
Okay.
So again, by today's standards, terrible, absolutely terrible. But it was 250 quid, and you could put a deposit in, and then every time you'd earn a bit of money, you go in with a little card.
That's cool.
Put another tenner on it.
Is this just in the local bike shop kind of thing?
It was like a local kind of mini, like a smaller version of Halfords.
Okay, yeah.
So like car parts and cleaners and stuff like that, and they had some bikes. Eventually got that. So I had double crowns. Yeah, I had full suspension. It weighed a ton. But like we took that up to Bickerton Hill.
Yeah.
Just random little hill. And it had a bomb hole at the end. So you had all these kind of like progressing sizes of drops around into the bomb hole. And you just had two settings on your fork. One was for like when it was cold and everything was rigid, so you'd soften all the elastomers up. The other one was for when it's warm and you just bottom out on like a pavement drop, so you had to like ramp the elastomers really hard. So did that, and then that thing got stolen, unfortunately. Bought a set of what were they called? The not Monster Tees, Super Tees.
Yeah.
Was it those ones? Yeah, Super Tees.
Were they gold or was that the Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just remember them having. That was when I started to like wish. Looking back at that age now, I would wish I could know a little bit more about what was going on the bikes, just to have maybe taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because it had an air valve somewhere and you could pump it up and put anything more than like 7 PSI in, and the forks felt terrible. So I had that, and so put a set of them on from a friend. He was I think his family a bit more well off, and he ended up having like an old DH team, giant DH team, and he had a Santa Cruz Chameleon with single crown shivers. So ended up getting a bit of his cast off parts, but for me they were really good. So that got stolen, which is a sad day. And then bought an Intense M1, found it on like was it Southern Downhill Forum or something?
Oh yeah, that was the big pre Pinkbike being a thing. Yeah,
650 quid.
Yeah, that was the dream bike back then, though. Well.
It still is.
Yeah.
Like that bike, I really wish I knew a fraction of what I do now back then to have appreciated all the different geometry and suspension settings you could do on it. And so I had that. That was amazing. Loved that bike. And then, rode that for a bunch of time, upgraded loads of parts, took it to my first Mosine trip. That was terrifying. You don't think I really enjoyed any of the riding looking back?
Really?
Well, no, it's so different to the UK.
Yeah, you can get in trouble quite quickly. Like the speed builds in the UK, you're pedaling if you want speed generally. Especially back then, there weren't that many like steep tracks in the UK early on.
We did a bunch of Pierce downhill races on that thing. Still remember one because I somehow had some cast-off tires from Dan Critchlow. He was racing on Intense.
Yeah, and
they were about like inch-thick carcass, didn't move. And it was a horrible muddy race at Bringewood. That's the one. And I had to stop halfway down the track and dig the back wheel out of mud because it wasn't turning round.
Wow.
That was fun. And that's actually around the time we discovered Pierce uplifts, because up until then we'd drive out that way, or a friend who could drive we'd go out with them, and then we'd push up. So you'd end up doing maybe max 2 full runs.
Yeah.
And usually every ride would end in a crash at some point for me. I crashed a lot as a kid.
Good.
Yeah. We're just going on my bike history here, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, it's all right then.
And then, Intense M1 sold that to everyone in the UK's got a mate called Dave. So sold it to my mate Dave, and he rode it for a long time actually until the chainstays broke. First Mosine trip was a good one. We halfway down one of the tracks back to, we were staying on Montreal Lake, halfway
nice.
down one of the tracks there, obviously probably stopped for friggin' arm pump reasons. And my friend, they said, when you're not coming out to France with us if you don't wear like full body armor.
Oh yeah, it's the days of the Dainese like full suit.
Yeah, and it got sweaty zip, and then you can't get the zip open because it's all corroded, and you couldn't move anyway. I think that was a part of why I didn't fully enjoy it that much.
Yeah,
I mean, I did. You're out in the mat, you can't not enjoy it, but you're like, the runs are so long, crazy arm pump. You're out of your depth all the time.
Yeah, it's intimidating when you've come from riding in the UK.
It felt like by the end of the 2 weeks, you just started to acclimatize.
Yeah.
Just maybe. And get into the Dave's 10 runs of plenty before breakfast regime and stuff. So, no. So, yeah, sold that to a friend and a racer at the time. So, a town down the road called Crewe had a really good BMX track that was floodlit till 10 every night. So we'd go 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
I had a like Yeti DJ by them. And we'd ride there and ride with all the BMXers, do some gate starts and stuff. Great. Like really, that was really good fun times. And I appreciate that times because littlest bikes teach you the best skills, I think.
Yeah.
And one of the races there, Kieran, he was sponsored at the time and he had one of the Iron Horse Sundays, but one of the special edition gold ones.
Ooh.
After Hill won, I don't know if it was the World Champs and the World Cup overall, or one of those. It was like 06, 07 that time. So he was selling that with, what was the shot? Progressive? No, it was, the Intense had a progressive fifth element, and that one had like a Fox DHX5 or something.
Okay.
Really old shock. Anyway, had a tie spring. That was the bargaining point.
That's fancy.
Bought that, I think it was 600 quid as well. Swapped all the bits over, had some like old boxes with a new box of lowers, and all the internals were from Dan Critchlow as well. So they were all apparently black box, but I didn't know what the hell either leg did. Couldn't figure out if one was rebound and one was compression. It was terrible. But built that. You got the like Filofax out and cut it, made a mud guard on the back like triangle of it. You used the Camelback hose, like literally copied everything the mechanics were doing and you saw in dirt.
You thought you were Sam Hill basically.
No. By that time, Earth had started like coming out on DVD, so you were watching him more and more. You're like, oh, not even close. And that time, I hadn't discovered contacts, so I was still wearing glasses to ride.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's funny, I was looking back with my wife through some old photos recently, and I used to like squint to hold my glasses a bit tighter in my face.
No way.
So they wouldn't vibrate around. Still remember the day I did contact rides in the first ride. I was like, dear God.
This is an advantage.
What? Yeah, I was like, this is amazing. And now I can see all the trees.
Yeah. Now you're scared. You can actually see what's coming.
Yeah, it was a bit terrifying. But no, like the Iron Horse was amazing. And then we took the Iron Horse out to the Mega Avalanche.
Yeah.
A bunch of us did the Mega Avalanche on DH bikes, and it literally kicked 7 cans of shit out of us. It's a big race, that.
It's a hell of a race on an old school downhill bike because there's quite a lot of pedaling on Mega Avalanche, right? There was then, there's less now, I think. But
yeah, I've not done it. We did it twice. And there's what was it? Steve Jones said it's before it, you're really crapping your pants. While you're doing it, it's the worst thing in the world. And once you finish, it's the best thing in the world.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And I think it's like, you maybe after a few years of not doing it, you start to forget what it was like to do it. And you're like, oh, I wonder if I could. And it creeps back in. But yeah, we took that and then we came back home, rode DH bikes and realized that you didn't ride them that much in the UK anymore. Or you did, but it was like lots of the tracks by then you could actually take, because it was when kind of mountain bikes, trail bikes, enduro bikes were really coming into their own.
Started to improve.
And so you could actually get away with riding that. You'd have more fun on all the other stuff, whereas normally we were riding hardtails.
Yeah.
Plus you could still take it Shetland and even take it out to the Alps as well. So I ended up selling the Iron Horse, finding a Lapierre Spicy. It's the last time I'll ever buy a white bike. There's a reason why test machines, you spray the bikes white so you can see the cracks. Yeah. That ended up in the bin. But yeah, no, and then around that time is when I managed to get a job in Switzerland and move and access to bicycles.
Let's go back to the kind of job side of things. Like what were your interests like at school and studying? Like which path did you follow?
Really early on, it was archaeology.
Okay.
Probably just because I love digging holes in the ground.
Did
Seeing
that
what's
come
coming
from
out of it.
digging trails, or were you digging holes to look for stuff?
No, this was
before
like
that?
kid, like
Okay.
way before,
Yeah.
like way before riding kit. I think riding really kicked in around 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
Like somewhere around then.
Same for me. Yeah.
No, just loved digging and seeing what was in the ground and stones and stuff and that. Yeah. And then architecture was one thing. And then as soon as I realized it was 7 years, that took the taste out of my mouth. And yeah, not loved, but I was good at maths and physics. They seemed to work in my head quite well.
Okay.
Kind of logically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that directed me towards engineering. So studied them at A2 level, like GCSE A2 level, went through. And then cars.
I was going to say performance car tech was your like degree, yeah?
Really enjoyed cars and that whole stuff. So actually did a year down in Brunel University in London.
Yeah.
It was the week before I did my A2 exams, I crashed and broke my collarbone. I was kicking in like a little lip on the side of the road near where we are. So you could like pedal down the road, hit it, big bank verge and like land in it. And I just landed from like 2 meters up, put my arms out as you do when you crash, and rode home quite gingerly around the corner, went upstairs, pulled my t-shirt down, was like, oh, all right, like my collarbone's sticking out. Not out the skin, but like she was broken pretty good. Went downstairs to mum. It's like, Mum, I think I've broke my collarbone. And she just panicked. Dad was trying to like do a sling as I was sat in the passenger seat of the car. Couldn't figure it out. Mum's like losing her shit. And there's 2 routes into town, through Nantwich to Crewe where the hospital was. One's no speed bumps. The other is speed bumps. No. Mum took the speed bumps the whole way. So that was fun. So I actually didn't sit I only sat one of my A2 exams, and it was actually assisted. So it was one of the science teachers sat with me. So he had a paper, I had a paper, sat down through both of them. And he'd read me the question and I'd answer what I'd like it to be written down. And as soon as I'd write something that wasn't particularly correct, he'd look at me and be like, are you sure you'd like me to write that?
No way.
Actually, no, I'm not. I'd like you to, can I rethink what's going on there? So no, ended up mostly predicted grades. And so Brunel had accepted me. You know, like at uni, you apply for like, at that time it was like 4.
Yeah.
And you go through the kind of lists for that. Brunel was the top one because it's quite a prestigious engineering uni.
For engineering, for sure.
And so when I ended up with predicted grades, it was a bit of a panic. And the admissions lady, Petra, I've random memory, Petra, she was like, no, we'll still take him. So it was like, Christ. So packed everything up, went down to Brunel Uni. And
which is London way, right?
Yeah, just on the outskirts of London, like one of the last stops on the tube. And did a year there. And where I come from is like cow country, middle of nowhere, and I'd gone and plonked myself in like central London. 18, immature, didn't know how to deal with money, any of that stuff, and that all went tits up.
Okay.
And it was I think one is because you end up having like thousands of bucks to pay all the things you should pay, and instead I didn't.
Spend it on bikes or drink?
On bikes, on drink, going out, and the uni campus had like 3 bars, 3 clubs even. So it was like going from one extreme to the other, and I think an 18-year-old me was not mature enough to handle that.
Not many 18-year-olds are, mate, to be honest.
And the learning style as well was different. I know like you're not spoon-fed when you're at A2 level, but then you go and sit in uni and it was just one day to the next, the way you learn was completely different.
It's in your hands all of a sudden completely, isn't it? I think. Like the onus is on you to make the most of it.
Totally.
If you don't turn up, they don't care. It's like
no, not at all.
Your problem.
But even the way that you took the information and you had to go through it and interpret it yourself, and it was just I'll hold my hands up and say I screwed up big time. So anyway, after just going into my second year there, decided I was like, right, this isn't for me. Owned up to me mum and dad that I'd made some mistakes with money. Moved back, worked in Halfords for a year to get some money together and
in the bike department, or
in the bike cut. That was fun. Met some nice people there. But always had the intention of going back to uni. So that wasn't me done. I was like, no, I want to get a degree, want to get in engineering stuff. And my mum's friend was a careers advisor, and so we sat down and we went through it, and we actually found in Wrexham Uni they were doing performance car technology. So it's a mechanical engineering degree. So you come out with a bachelor's of engineering, mechanical engineering. But everything was taken one step further. So you'd learn all the fundamentals of thermodynamics or fluid flow or all that stuff, and you'd apply it to race cars.
That's
so either
cool.
through structures of race cars, aerodynamic flow, how stuff goes in and out of engines and stuff like that. And so I was going that route.
Yeah.
Always had that passion for bikes though.
Yeah.
But that was a close second, if you will, because my profession at that point was cars.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of the unis I applied to was Coventry, and you could get in a position at Rally Art there as well for like a semester or something. So it was always going to be about cars. And then coming up to my end of the second year, they were trying to like lead you into thinking about, all right, what do you start to choose for your final year project, your thesis? And I think that's when I had it was like the light bulb moment. I was like, I like bikes and I'm studying engineering. And I was like, I put the two together. I was like, I could do bike engineering.
Hang on.
It's common sense, isn't it? But like really good like light bulb moment.
But that was the first time for you that you'd thought that was a potential route. It'd always been like, I like bikes, but cars is where work is kind of thing. Yeah,
it was like cars, love them, but that was the profession. Like that was the direction of where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Bikes, I loved them like maybe even more because they're amazing.
Yeah.
But it always just had that thing of like, that's the hobby in my head.
Yeah.
And I'd done little projects, like did replaceable derailleur hanger for the Intense M1 with Goldtech, with Bob at Goldtech, and was messing around with some other things at like uni in Wrexham. But when I had that opportunity, I was like, when I had that light bulb moment, it was like, okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
I could get my teeth into this. And so decided to design a DH bike for two reasons. One was love DH.
Yeah.
I thought it could be, let's have a go.
Yeah. And
second was that I could start to appreciate that you needed experience to get anywhere in the bike industry.
In any industry, I think.
Yeah. It's tough to get in when you've got a blank sheet of paper and you're just knocking on doors. So I was like, I wonder if this could stand as some sort of experience or set you apart from everyone else that's coming and knocking fresh out of uni and 100%. Wants to get in the industry.
Yeah.
So set about that. I didn't build it. We only had 7 months to do everything, including writing the thesis, which turned out to be like 20,000 words or something.
Wow.
I got really into it.
Yeah. That's nice.
Really into it.
Yeah.
So went all the way through to a point where I had a design. I'd gone through one set of iterations with a little bit of FEA as much as I could figure out.
Which is like a stress analysis technique to look at, is this thing going to live, basically? Finite element analysis.
Basically, yeah. So it's a simulate, You could probably describe that a lot better than I could, I think, in fewer words. But simulate it inside a computer to emulate the real world to see if it's going to hold up or not.
Yeah.
And ran it through the guys at Goldtech as well. So Dan Critchlow and Bob at Goldtech, they were still there and that was still going. So they gave me their thoughts. And so basically finished at a point where I thought, all right, now I could start to maybe cut some tubes and see about getting this thing made.
Yeah.
But that was the start of figuring out bikes and how the hell them things work. Sat for ages, managed to get a copy of Solid. Like, there's always a copy of software going around at any uni. Doesn't matter where you are. We had SolidWorks.
Okay.
So we had what was it called back then? PTC. Lost it. Whatever it was before Creo.
Yeah.
We used that. Pro Engineer.
Yeah.
We used that at uni, and then
which is your design package, right? It's what you're building the models and everything in,
that's
3D
CAD
models
software,
and CAD. Yeah.
SolidWorks, which is a competitor to that, if you will, another 3D software. Got a copy of that. First thing I did was try and model a shock. So I took the shock off my iron horse, took all the measurements, figured out how you can do extrudes and cuts and stuff.
Yeah.
Then figured out how you do the spring. And that was like a Saturday, Sunday little thing to figure that out. So then I'd model and just started to then go through all that and do like the research of bicycles, why are they 200mm travel for DH bikes, learn words about like what is anti-squat and like all these things. And it's it still is such a sparse environment of getting information.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing out there. It's not a textbook,
right?
If you're like young and you can start to piece things together with a good head, there's lots of stuff out there for motorcycles and you can try and extract what you can for the stuff for motorcycles and twist and contort it to fit to bicycles.
Yeah.
Because they're very different in the way they're weighted, ridden, built.
Yeah.
But to do with just mountain bikes and like explaining them was no factual, clear information. No peer-reviewed things, no scientific, nothing.
Yeah.
There was maybe some bits and pieces in Dirt from, is it Luis Arias?
Yeah.
Probably murdered his surname. I apologize.
Louis Araz, I think, is
Araz.
the pronunciation. I think I might be wrong. Yeah.
So he's
currently, or I think he's just left Cannondale, but he's done a lot of the recent Cannondale bikes.
Yeah.
Been involved
GT
in the
and
industry
all
for a
that.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was doing back then K9.
Yeah.
So he was living in the UK. I had a set of his headset cups in my own horse. And so he wrote some bits and pieces about bicycle design, which started to be like the only true stuff, if you will, because it was like from a reputable source.
Yeah.
But trying to get hold of other stuff was just impossible. So set about badgering every single one with an email address I could find. And the ones that like continually replied, there was Kevin Walsh from Evil. He replied a few times. He was helpful. Kyle from Transition
Nice.
was a really big help, and Keith Scott from Banshee
Okay.
were
Sweet.
two that they helped out a lot. They took the time to email to say and what they wanted to answer the questions. So look at silly drawn drawings of kinematics to see if they'll work or not. Like, yeah.
That's ace.
So they helped out a bunch during writing my thesis.
So you just like effectively cold called them via email, just dropped in like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like,
like on any website you can find info at or hello at whatever email address it is, and just created a kind of generic email and just changed the name. Yeah, and just saying like, can I ask some questions about bike design and development? And it's fun. Yeah, I sent a lot. Like a lot. But those three helped out.
So it's the smaller end of the brand scale, I guess. Like the emails maybe at some of these bigger brands, when you send it to info at,
might not get through to
just
anyone.
disappear almost in a way. Like no one knows what to do with them.
No,
Whereas
true.
you're getting, maybe it's one person away from like Kyle at Transition, for example. And they know, let's just send this to Kyle. He might be interested.
So that was real nice of them. They helped out a bunch.
Yeah.
Because that's, and still today, the level of, the amount of information, whether it be like reputable or not, about bicycle development is terrible.
It's very limited.
So, no, where are we now?
Yeah. So you've done this project. Do you think that put you in good stead? Were you then like, right, I'm 100%, I'm applying to the bike industry. This is where I want to go. Okay.
Yeah. No, once I'd had that light bulb moment before my thesis, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
That was really then like a guiding light of, I can put these two things together.
Yeah.
And I can turn my hobby into my profession. I was like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, 100%.
For me, I didn't even I never questioned it. It was like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Never questioned it.
So who did you apply to then? Because you've already built some level of relationship with a few people at brands, I guess, from doing the thesis. But like, how did you approach trying to get a good job in the industry after uni?
Same, just badgering them.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'd built together a bit of a resume.
Okay.
So put together kind of a CV, if you want a resume, but also put it really biased towards bicycles and development.
Yeah.
Included my thesis and just geared it all around that in terms of wording and the look and stuff. Made a bunch of CDs as well. Came up to actually a Fort William World Cup in 2010, 2009, something like that. I think it was 2010-ish. And handed them out to like loads of the brands that are here and stuff. And most of the time you're handing it to someone in marketing or like events or something. And but it just literally like persevered.
Yeah.
Proper persevered. And applied for, cold people by email, applied for engineering jobs, knowing that I didn't have the criteria that they needed, but even applied for jobs that I knew were in the like design jobs, which I knew were not far away from bicycle development. The teams work together.
Yeah.
And that's,
so you mean like industrial design, like how the bike looks and that side of it, rather than the kinematics and the strength and
usually I'd say that you've got like your engineering department and your design department.
Okay.
So then for me, I think you'd call it bike development. Maybe we call it, there's lots of like words we use in it, but bike design, if you call it bike development, you've got the engineering side of it, you've got the design side of it, you've got the product management side of it as well that gets involved. Those teams get involved in development. So, but that's actually how I ended up getting in the industry. Was applied for a design job at Scott. Okay. Thinking it's close, maybe though, maybe. Yeah. And Fred, who was the head of product design, who I then went to Met, so I ended up working there. Yeah. He ended up passing my CV on to Benoit, who was the head of engineering at Scott. And Benoit reached out and said, we'd like to bring you over for an interview.
They're in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, they're in Switzerland. So yeah, in Fribourg. So not a million miles away from, like, just down the road from Bern, capital.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, if you've done like a year and a half of working in Sainsbury's.
So this is what you did out of uni. You were in Sainsbury's.
Yeah, you need money, right?
Yeah. So Sainsbury's is a supermarket in the UK for anyone that doesn't live in the UK.
Yeah, stacking shelves.
You were literally stacking shelves.
Yeah.
That's pretty soul destroying, eh? Like,
can be.
Yeah.
Got on booze, wines and spirits, mate. That's
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. We started on dry goods. Simon Cooper was, my boss on dry goods, and I had the evening shifts. So, because that was carried over from uni.
Right.
So I'd stopped working at Halfords, started working at Sainsbury's. So that carried on from like night part-time work in the evenings at Sainsbury's while I was at uni to picking up more shifts.
So you weren't tempted to try and find a non-bike engineering job? Because that's the other route you could have potentially gone, I guess. But maybe then you'd have never ended up in the bike world. No,
at that point, thinking back, it was just really single focus. Yeah. It was just pushing hard for it.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. Once I put bike and engineering together, I was like, we're there.
Yeah. And
I think
cars stack shelves for a year, then so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was good. It brought in some funds, saved up money. I obviously sort of riding bikes all the time as well then. And yeah, no, booze, wines and spirits was good because it was a nice little department that.
Yeah.
Helped out the lady, Chris, on there every evening.
Nice.
Pop over and see if she needed a hand. And then the Sainsbury's luckily moved stores. They moved into a temporary store. And Si Cooper asked me one night, he's like, what do you want to work on? I was like, booze, wines and spirits, please. Yeah.
Why is that the one?
I don't know. It's just nice.
Yeah.
Nice group of people on there.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Fair play.
Knew where all the wines were by country and stuff. It was, No, it was, I don't know why. Actually, thinking back, it's crazy. But good department to work on if you ever go and work at Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Nantwich, that's a good one. Chris is still there, actually. She's 6.
Amazing.
She must be ready for retirement. She works harder than all the teenagers that come in.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's so cool.
But yeah, did that. And then as soon as I went out to Switzerland for an interview, got my best suit on. Different country, different culture, different languages, figuring out the transport system.
Yeah.
That was a bit wild.
Was anyone else wearing a suit in your interview or just you?
There was just me. And after I'd got the job, I spoke to some other guys who interviewed for other jobs around the same time. They didn't wear suits.
Yeah.
I just figured you have to.
That's what you kind of
smart, don't you?
Yeah, it's what you're told
you
to
wear
do,
a
I
suit,
guess.
you're good. Yeah, so wore that. Anyway, had a sit down with Benoit. I think, this is some time ago. This is 2010 as well. It's early 2011, apologies. Sat down with Benoit, the head of engineering. Sat down, I think Joe, who was one of the more senior engineers there. So that's Joe Higgins, British guy. I think he popped in as well. And Pascal Pasky, who was the vice president, he popped in as well during the interview.
No pressure then.
Nah, mate, I was already over my... I was in over my head already. Everyone was speaking French, trying to figure my way around Fribourg in a city. Yeah, it was good. And a few months went by and gave him a nudge to see if they'd be what the answer was.
Yeah.
If they were, and he said, yeah. He was like, we'd love to hire you.
Whoa.
And I think at that point, actually, my mum realized that you can make a living out of bikes and it wasn't this silly hobby anymore.
Okay, yeah.
No, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think up until then, she'd just been dealing with patching me up every day.
Yeah.
Because I'd always crash. I crashed a lot as a kid. And so she was constantly washing the dirt out of my clothes and patching me up. And bikes were just this obsession. But it was never more than that. And then she saw how much I was going to get paid. And she's like, oh, okay. All right, you're doing all right for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I was the... Dad went to uni but didn't finish uni. No one from my mum's side went to uni, so for that side of the family is a big thing.
Okay.
Auntie went to uni, so I guess it was a big thing that I'd gone through, got a degree, and got a nice job, a good job that was related to your degree, and you were going for it, kind of thing. So that was really cool. And so they were right behind me.
Fair play.
So they came with me. We did a trip out, flew to Zurich, went and checked out some houses and some flats and stuff and cruised around. Yeah. Dad driving the rental car, wrong side of the road, clipping people's wing mirrors. So went out to Fribourg, found some places to stay. Ended up actually staying Joe, the head of engineering now. He moved out of his old place, so I took his.
Yeah.
That was quite easy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, started a lineage of bike engineers from Scott living in the same
Yeah.
apartment. And yeah, and then just packed all my stuff up, put it in a big lorry, like a moving lorry from a company. And yeah, went off to Switzerland.
It's a pretty, I mean, potentially quite intimidating move, right? You're going into this huge bike company that I assume works in a foreign language a lot of the time, or not?
It's quite mixed. I'd say common language is English.
Okay, fair. So that helps.
Where they are is French speaking. You go 20 minutes down the road, it's Swiss German. So it's quite multilingual.
Okay.
And like lots of the product management side of people were Swiss German at that time, still are. Engineering was a split of English and French.
Yeah.
And design was a lot of French people.
Okay.
So it was, pretty much common language was English.
It sounds like you feel like you were punching a bit above your weight when you turned up. Is that fair?
I still do generally anyway. I don't know why you're interviewing me, to be fair.
Come on, mate.
I think I'm an idiot with access to CAD, as a very good friend puts it about himself. But I think Joe and Tim, who's another engineer at Scott, laughed because they said my eyes were just wide open for like 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the Alps, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And everything was just like that wow thing. I was like, whoa, looking around the whole country. So they kept making fun of me that my eyes never shut for like 3 months. But yeah, no, it's always, I don't know, like even at Goldtech, that feeling of, it's a nice feeling, I think, but like that you don't know much.
Mm-hmm.
You get a bit humbled by someone else's knowledge, experience, ability to give that experience to you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word it, but you feel like the little man, a sponge.
Yeah. I was going to say, you just soak it all up.
Yeah,
right?
wanting to know and wanting to learn. You don't feel like you're cocky and you know everything. No, complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that. I still do.
Yeah.
Like in awe of other people's like experiences and stuff. Like we were at dinner with Martin White, or just sat at the table with Martin Whiteley yesterday. I could just listen to him talk forever.
It's
like
amazing, eh?
The stories and the experiences and the way that he talks about the knowledge of team management and ins and outs of the rules and common changes. It's like, I feel like a little kid listening to like, and I'm like, I want to write all this down and remember every word.
But that's so cool. How cool is it that you've been in the industry, what now, 10 years?
That was 2011 I got the job.
Yeah, so 12 years.
Yeah.
And you're still feeling like this little kid in this magical world. Like, it's so cool, isn't it? You've not got desensitized to that and been like, oh yeah, like...
No, I think if I ever did, I'd ask my wife and my best mate Basil to slap me. Because if that goes, you're screwed.
Yeah. The enjoyment goes out of it at that point, I think.
Yeah, if the enjoyment goes, if you start to get a big head on your shoulders and you don't feel you can learn anymore, self-proclaimed expert kind of thing, I think that's always been cautious of that.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's still bikes, isn't it? It's like...
Yeah.
It's all built around fun, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just playing on bikes in the woods at the end of the day. It's like why we all do it.
Yeah.
It's not particularly... It shouldn't be we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously.
Not at all. There's professionalism and that can go in and you can be good about it, but you can also not take yourself too seriously.
100%.
Yeah. No, I just try and keep that idea of, I guess kid in a sweet shop.
Yeah.
Like kid in this wonderland. Like idea, mindset, and just keen to learn, I think.
Nice.
But you can't off everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot of knowledge, right?
Yeah. What is it? Treat everyone like they know something you don't.
It's true, they do.
Kind of idea.
Yeah.
So it's 12 years. It's wild.
That's mad, eh? And did you do about 6 years at Scott? Yeah,
just before 6 years. So it's 2011 to 2017.
What sort of stuff were you involved in there? Did you kind of work your way through various different projects and levels within that engineering world?
Yeah, so back when I started, the engineering team was quite small. It was Benoit was the head of engineering, and he also did some bicycle development as well, not just all the managerial stuff.
Yeah.
Joe Higgins, Tim Stevens, two British guys from the Isle of Wight, like childhood friends.
Yeah.
They'd grown up, and Tim started about 6 months before me as well. So that was kind of cool. There was a little bit of an English group there already, and humor and culture and kind of things there.
Yeah.
Cyril Beaulieu, he was there as well, so a French engineer. So I think I was the 5th engineer on the team.
Okay.
It's a quite small team. And everyone did everything in terms of we mixed between road and mountain bike and urban projects. Mathieu Londres, sorry. There was another engineer there.
Yeah.
Another French engineer. So we mixed between genres of bikes, we mixed between materials of bikes, and also you did everything. So concept to presentations to the media.
Yeah.
And all the development and testing, everything.
Yeah.
You weren't designated one segment of development.
Yeah.
And I think that I really appreciate.
Yeah, so you see the whole spectrum
Yeah.
of design from like, the drawing board all the way through manufacture, launch, job, like in the automotive, we call it job 1+90, but like getting the thing out into the wild and dealing with any early issues and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I can appreciate that it's maybe more a jack of all trades, master of none, compared to some brands I know where they do specialize.
Yeah.
But I think given bikes and the way that they are a system, you need that appreciation and understanding of every step along the way.
Yeah.
And even like actually writing presentations and going teaching people about what you've done and how you've laid up a carbon bike simply and well and efficiently also helps bolster your own knowledge and stuff.
100%.
So I'm really thankful that we got the chance to do that at Scott and could do everything all the way through.
Yeah. Do you think working on products that are still bikes but are very, very different, like, I mean, an XC bike even is very different to a downhill bike, but especially when you get into road and urban, do you think what you learn in those areas is transferable? Do you think it helps improve you as, like, let's say a downhill bike designer?
For sure. I mean, like, there's always transferable knowledge in terms of maybe 3D modeling steps or factory communication, or if you're looking at that grand scheme of things from like start to finish, absolutely. There's always transferable knowledge, I think. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily in geometry and stuff like certain points, but yeah.
Okay.
And if you approach like one of the projects I did that actually never went to production was a cyclocross bike.
Okay.
And so I got handed a cyclocross project once, and I actually like don't ride cyclocross. It's not my forte. But just jumped into it with the idea of, all right, let's approach this in a really analytical way and research what's going on, find out what the racers are after, where they're at with the current bike, where we can improve all that stuff. And like, fortunately, probably for Scott, another engineer joined on after midway through that project called Rico, and he rode a lot of cyclocross. So in the end, it's like, well, I'm not mad about you having the project at all. It's like, you ride the stuff, you'll probably ride the bike at the end of it. So but yeah. No, it was fun. We did a lot of projects actually. Started with a little voltage hardtail.
Okay.
So that was dirt jump pump track bike.
Yeah.
That was fun. Still got that bike.
Relatively simple in the grand scheme.
Geometry wise, it was only one size. But it's kind of like a high-end dirt jump bike made of aluminium. So you had the opportunity for, if you will, a little more design, a little more creativity in construction. Yeah. Steel can be somewhat limiting in those dirt jump things, and they look clean and tidy, but somewhat samey across all the dirt jump bikes.
It's hard to differentiate from other brands, right?
And had great guidance from then. I'd met a guy called Ben Walker who works for the company, so he helped out a lot with things that I didn't know about what's going to work on head angles for the guys riding this in slopestyle courses, stuff like that. And we also did a 24-inch version of that. So it started as a 26-inch bike. We did a 24-inch version with all the same forged parts, tube-ins, just cut them differently. That was super cool, like little cruiser thing. That was accompanied by 5 sizes of like a kid's voltage as well, like kids bike to school kind of thing. That was fun as well. Then at that point, Nino Schurter was racing a scale. So that's the hardtail cross country bike, composite bike. And they'd done him a one-off medium size. So they'd made a mold, cut a mold for a medium size for him. He gets quite a lot of priority at that company.
Fair.
For good reasons, to be honest. And my project was to take that M size and adapt it to production bike. So do all the other sizes of like all the 3D of the other sizes and get that thing through production testing and out into the wild. So that was
huge
entry into like a fair bit of surface modeling and like clean surface modeling. It's very different how you model a carbon frame to aluminium can be. Then did voltage free ride. So that's like 190 mil travel, 27.5 free ride bike. Still got a couple of those frames. Might build one for my wife up.
Nice.
And that was done hand in hand at the same time as the Gambler of that era came out. So the Gambler had already been around with that, like the green one with a floating link, like high single pivot kind of vertical shock floating link system. And they were updating that to 27.5 as well. So that was fun. Again, worked with Ben Walker and that was the foray into suspension, rear suspension, kinematics, and all the associated black magic. It's not black magic.
How at that point like reflecting back, you're obviously starting to put your like degree thesis into context of like, okay, how well did I do that considering, you know, what I knew then, now that I'm with these like, you know, the magicians, the people that have been doing this day in, day out. Like, how did you feel that compared once you started stepping into it in the, you know, actually within the industry?
Looking back on that even now, it's like I opened it up the other day and was like, oof, wow. In some respects, I was like, I don't know. It feels like I was looking back on someone else. It's really hard to describe, but in some ways a little bit proud because I just taught myself SolidWorks at home in my bedroom and managed to model a whole frame and then figure out rudimentary FEA simulation and go from there.
Yeah, fair play.
And I even saw the progress that I'd made through my thesis in how I 3D modeled, like the quality of my modeling and stuff. But then looking back, you're like, you know nothing. You've got no idea about like suspension kinematics and how they all interact or how to construct stuff or kind of like it's really conflicting. It's like, wow, you did all that, and then you did all that. Oh Christ.
But also I guess in that, even in the relatively short time period between you writing the thesis and when you started working on suspension at Scott, the industry, the understanding, the geometries, like everything has moved probably for the last 15 years at a hell of a pace, or maybe for longer than that, but there's been a big progression in, I think, everyone in the industry's understanding of
for sure
kinematic and geometry and how everything interacts and what riders actually need. Like what we're riding now is so much better, more appropriate than what we had back then.
No, completely
and in
agree.
suspension, I guess you can argue that we needed the technology to progress, but in kinematic and geometry, there would be nothing stopping us doing that 20 years ago. No. It's just that we've had to learn and understand the interactions, I guess, to get to where we are.
I might end up talking about Ben Walker a lot, but I think this is like 2011 I joined Scott and they had already got the Gambler then and like the big gas tank Gambler. Like that was a single pivot. Looked like a horse pivot kind of layout, but it was a single pivot. And they had voltage freeride and he's quite involved with like the progressive bikes that they call it, Scott. So sort of gravity oriented stuff. And that's where I ride the most. That's what I ride. That's what I enjoy riding. So I ended up working with him luckily on a few projects and riding and spending a lot of time with him. So I think people back then had the knowledge of feelings to numbers, numbers to feelings. And I think there was a good understanding of already at that time what was working in terms of bike shapes, geometry and fit and all that stuff, kinematics relative to what suspension was available, what like how good the suspension was at that time. So but I think everything advances together. So as suspension got better, kinematics got better or changed, should we say? Maybe in some respects.
So you feel like the progression in suspension technology has enabled better kinematic trade-offs. Would that be a fair summary? Like you had a kinematic you might have wanted 10 years ago, but the suspension to make that work didn't exist.
Yeah, maybe there was, and maybe they couldn't figure out why it didn't work because, I don't know, maybe the shocks blew up or the frame fell apart or there's so many factors in a bike. Like it's still fascinating how many, like you look at G. Milner's like dream build and he always does that photo where it's laid out, right? There's so many parts. You went into like individual bolts and nuts and shim.
Yeah, the bill of materials is big, right?
There's a lot of parts. And I think every single part of that is kind of advanced more or less together.
Okay.
It's like bearings or small things like that, and understanding how to construct good hardware at pivots and stuff has advanced while the shocks have advanced. And like you're always like suspension and bike manufacturers are working together and talking a lot. So I think maybe not so much one advanced and pulled the other one forward, but definitely like within a zone, everything kind of advanced together, it feels like.
Yeah.
But I think we had, and it's all relative to the time, isn't it? Like now the bike shape is very different to 2011. Like my wife is riding a bigger bike now than I was riding in 2011.
Yeah.
So like back then a large Gambler was like 445 reach.
Yeah.
And now her medium like enduro bike is 455. And that works.
Yeah.
And it works fine. And like it's also following the ability of your average Joe, if you will.
Yeah.
Which I think is I would say has also increased.
Yeah.
At least in like a core-ish mountain biking sense.
Yeah.
You always got beginners coming in and so on, but I generally feel like most people's riding abilities is actually
higher,
pretty good.
Yeah,
Or at least when you go to the bike parks, or you go riding around Switzerland or France, and you see what people are doing, and just these people that come out for 2-week holidays.
Yeah.
Relative to what I was able to do.
How much of that is the bike, and how much of that is like a skill progression, do you think? Like
the same again, I think.
Yeah, maybe go hand in hand kind of
thing.
thing.
Like the things get better, you can push them harder. Like the bike's got better, you can push them harder with more safety, more confidence, more comfort. The trails got built better, maintained better, more
accessible,
of them. Like, it all like evolves together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like snowballs all together, I think.
Yeah. Super cool, eh?
Yeah.
So 6 years-ish, just under, at Scott.
Yeah.
What drove the move away from Scott?
Some tough times in life.
Uh-huh.
By then, towards the end of my tenure at Scott, I'd been gifted. By that point, the Gambler is the premier project at Scott.
Yeah.
It's the DH bike. It's the race bike. The doors it opens in terms of what you can work with is super cool. And we did a really good job on the voltage free ride.
Uh-huh.
And although we laughingly called it the redheaded stepchild, so I actually got gifted the Gambler project. So this would be actually the start of the current Gambler that's being ridden and raced now.
Okay.
So worked on that actually for 9 months, and we did actually a prototype that nobody's really seen. So everyone saw the prototype that actually used the old mainframe, so single pivot mainframe. There was actually 2 prototypes before that, a medium and a large, that were 4-bar layout, had loads of things in there. So we actually did a bunch of work on that. But that was a dream project at the start. And myself and Ben Walker, who's now, is a very good friend, was back then, could see a very clear lineage of decisions to get to the best downhill bike in the world.
Yeah.
Very like clear vision, like really cool. And at each decision, we knew that we would arrive, assess, gather the best information and make the best decision possible.
Yeah.
And it was this straight line of like decisions to get there. And then the design department, the guy who was involved in helping the design of the bike was hard to work with.
Not on the same page.
No. Difficult. People are different anyway. That's always going to be the case. And
that can bring value, right? Everyone has different perspectives and ideas, and that can be a good thing.
Can be. Yeah. I think in some cases it can definitely work together. In some cases it can't. And I think the ideas of his ideas of what a downhill bike should be were different. And not lining up with ours from the engineering, more technical side, nor lining up with the project's direction and concept.
Yeah.
And also, it's just hard to work with. He's just a bit of a weird guy. Sorry, mate. And similar things happened on the project management side of it as well.
Okay.
And it went from a dream project that was this beautiful path that we could both see, to a lot more time spent hand-holding and trying to figure out ways to make people feel like they'd made the decision.
Yeah.
While guiding them into what you knew would be the best for the bike.
Yeah.
Which isn't bike engineering. It takes a lot of energy.
It's politics.
It kicks the taste out of your mouth. And Scott, I thank Scott and the people there so much. I should say that first before I say that it's a big company, and there's a corporate nature, and I started to realize that was maybe not my calling.
Okay.
That if you don't like the direction the ship's sailing in,
get off the ship.
It's
not an easy call, then, mate. Like,
no, and there were some other red flags that I drove past. I lost all my hair through stress, and
jeez, man.
Yeah, broke up with a girlfriend, and like lots of other personal things. I think also, I saw something the other day that it was people on average take, is it between 10 and 11 years to seek help for depression?
Wow.
Since they've got it, like proper clinical depression. So in that respect, it's the idea that people can go driving past the guy holding a red flag for a long time before shit happens to make you like pump the brakes and be like, wait, I need to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, when my hair started to come out, I was like, all right, this is shit.
Yeah, something's not right.
Drastic measures need to come back. So I made the very difficult decision to sit down with Benoit, who has always, at my whole time at Scott, been there for me. And I really appreciated that I had a very good communication with him and could sit down with him and say like, yo, I'd like to leave. And he even kindly offered me a 6-month sabbatical.
Okay, nice.
And said you'd have a job here when you came back. And I thought about it, and I said kindly, I was like, kindly, no.
Yeah.
I think if I leave with no responsibility, I think that's the best. So I decided to pack my bags. And by that time, I got a list on my fridge of places to visit with my bike that was just getting longer and longer and longer. So I was like, all right, let's do 2 things in once here and try and be a bit more chill in life and like rein it back in a bit. See what's going on with my hair.
See if we can get this back.
See if we can it had packed its bags and like fucked off. So I was like, all right, maybe we can we can do the same and go and find out where it's living. But so bought a van.
Yeah.
Or a few months prior to that, I'd bought like a Transporter, VW Transporter, nice van. Kitted that out, insulated it, carpeted it, put a bed in it, lights, everything. And decided to go traveling with my bikes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that was the start of that little trip. So yeah, for a year and a half, did one big loop of Europe, like through like the coastlines of Europe, all the way from like the leg of Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, back through Spain, Pyrenees, back to Switzerland. Did one up to, did a race in La Bresse with some friends.
Yeah.
Came up to UK for a month and did like all the way from Torridon down to Surrey Hills.
Man, that's cool.
That was eye-opening to a country that I'd lived in. I'm from, and like what this country is like.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowingly beautiful. The north of Scotland is beautiful.
Yeah, Torridon's incredible.
Yeah, the riding's amazing.
Yeah.
Should have packed more sandwiches on that trip, but because I'd always look on Trailfox and pick the biggest route. Went out for a pedal. It was 11 hours later. It was I had one point on that ride where it was sort of like Big Torridon Loop or whatever. Can't remember how many K, but it was like 3 big mountain passes.
Yeah.
And at one, I'd done the first mountain pass, and it was super cool. And it's typical Scottish. It's great, bit cold, but it wasn't raining. I got back to a road, and I had the choice of going left and carrying on the loop. And if I did that, that was the next 2 mountain passes. There wasn't really much turning back, or going right down to the van. And I knew that there was a storm coming. And I looked left, and I looked right, and I looked right, and there's a storm. I could see it down the road, and I always do this. And I was like, be right.
It'll move.
Be all right. Like 4 hours later, shivering up a mountain, waiting for the blue little GPS dot to move on Trailfox, realizing it's not moving because I've started to climb up the wrong path.
Oh man.
Had to hike around the front of the mountain, and one of 3 things happened. You either slipped on wet grass, you either slipped on wet rock, or you went up to your knee in a bog.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Hiked that round, rode the trail down, fingers just did not work, stripped off, got back in the van, ate some M&S sandwiches. Still remember that ride. So good. Character building.
Yeah. How long did it take you to feel like yourself again? Because obviously it sounds like you got yourself into a relatively bad place, like from a mental health perspective, and like the stress and what that does to your body and, you know, the way your body's functioning. How long did it take, do you think, to kind of come back to being proper down again?
So I kicked off in April 2017, probably when I got married, which is 2 years ago.
Okay, fair play, man.
Turns out actually getting married made me I had no hair, so like all gone, and really it didn't grow at all.
Right.
So there was no growing.
Yeah.
The doctor said he was like, you're very lucky. Lovely Italian guy was like, you're very lucky it's not scarring, because some alopecia it can scar and the hair will never grow back.
Yeah.
Didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it had all just fallen out. So there was always that hope that maybe one day it'll come back. And throughout the whole time traveling and all that, had no hair, very self-conscious, but started to come more to terms with, that's it.
Yeah.
This is it. This is, you got to work with what you got.
Yeah.
So I'm going with it. Took a long time though. But then when I met my wife Nadine back in 2018 and started to get more comfortable in a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And then, that actually, she still says it's surprising that the hair grew back. And so now, like, compared to how it was, it's, And
wow.
Now,
so it's the love of a good woman that took it.
There you go.
To turn it around, eh?
Yeah, behind every man is a great woman.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of idea. So,
yeah.
No, probably, it wasn't like a turning point, but I guess you get better day by day, if you will, or more like comfortable in your own skin again.
Yeah.
And I think around maybe 2019.
Yeah. Started to like time, eh?
You really be comfy.
Yeah.
Like things like not wearing hats around when other people come in the house and stuff like that. And just like, No, I spent a long time trying to hide, if you will.
Yeah.
Hated my appearance. So you're always like hat on. Swimming was terrible. Always wore a helmet.
Yeah.
Like in the odd occasions where you had to take it off. Like I remember one time I went riding in Mulally on my little trip, and I asked Ben Walker, mate, I was like, who'd you go shuttling with when you're in San Remo?
Yeah.
And he went, Tex Manuel Ducci.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet, kind of heard that name. He's like Italian enduro guy.
Yeah.
Messaged him. He's like, no worries. We pick you up at 8:30. So I was like thinking, all right, I'll get there for 8:30, but you're Italian. So,
it'd be like 9:15.
9 rocks up, 2 vans pull up, and he goes, you're in the second van. He puts my bike on, open the door. Cecile Ravenel sat there, and the whole of the Frejus Cycling Club. Spent the whole day letting them go first, because it's pretty like kids, enduro bikes, Mulally, good trails. Like it was literally like lighting a firework off at the start of a trail, watching it like snake off aggressively and then explode.
Yeah.
Dust the kid down, put him back on his bike and let him go.
Amazing.
Super good day.
Yeah.
But I still remember like full faces because you're shuttling.
Yeah.
Went to lunch in a lovely little place in the mountains. And I was like, fuck, I've left my hat in the other van. And little moments like that can spoil your day. You're like, shit. So I had to take my helmet off, and I still remember the feeling of like, no one is. That's the ironic thing.
But it's how you feel.
You feel everyone's looking at you, judging you.
Yeah.
It's a horrible feeling. So little memories like that I still got, but now I couldn't care. Sometimes you care a bit more, sometimes you care, but it's personal appearance, isn't it? So,
yeah, totally. Everyone's got something that they're like that about, I think. Like,
but generally, you're all right.
Yeah. Good.
Still joke with Ben that he should give me a stupid haircut. He's the barber of the brave. So,
amazing. When did you feel like you were ready to like tackle work again then?
So after I'd done my Europe trip, after I'd done a trip in UK, I also spent the summer in Switzerland, because Switzerland's quite central in Europe. Got a lot of good riding around there. Still had my place in Switzerland, just kept that. A very good friend of mine, Adam Beach, is living in Vancouver. So he married a girl from PEI, Prince Edward Island. They live in Vancouver. Been out and seen him loads, and 2017 went out and visited him again. So stayed riding around Vancouver, Squamish, Whistler, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I still remember a day pedaling around in Squamish when, again, a little bit of a light bulb moment was like, I could do bike engineering myself. I never wanted to get out of the industry. That was never the thing. I was never like, I'm done with bikes.
You haven't lost that love.
No. I think if that started to ever slightly, there'd be drastic measures taken again. But no, so riding around in Squamish, suddenly had that idea of like, I could be self-employed and like freelance as a bike engineer. And that kind of realization that you like, that must happen, that does happen. Seen a bit of it, Scott, like you can make a living out of that. So thought, right. And started to put more like brain power into that idea. How would you do it? How would you set it up? All that kind of things and so on, clients and everything there. And then 2018, I arrived. It was actually during the last bit of my trip, went to New Zealand for 4.5 months. And by that time, I was like, right, my trip, I knew it was kind of coming to an end around the end of that. So that would be April, May time, 2018.
Okay, yeah.
Was starting to gear up and say like, okay, let's get this going. Not like I need to, but let's get this going. Let's get engineering, self-employed going. And was sat in Nelson, met a lovely couple, Tom and Cheryl Haltmeyer.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually from Steffisburg, which is where my wife's from.
Okay.
Ironically. So
Yeah.
Swiss guy married to an Australian lady, and they were so hospitable. Like, I think everyone in ever needs to take a bit of like New Zealand hospitality and apply it to everyone else.
Yeah.
You could have just met them in a pub and just started talking, and they will literally like offer you their house keys to just stay as you want.
Amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
They let me stay, parked the van, slept there. We just chatted. Yeah. And every time I'd go there, Tom's favorite brewery, lots of microbrews in New Zealand, very good breweries.
Yeah.
Was called Garage Project in Wellington.
Okay.
So I'd always stop through, grab him a pack of, is it Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, or a bunch of like bunch of little they had little tinnies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful little beers. So I always get a set of them. One night sitting down, and I been chatting to them about this idea of setting up a consultancy / going freelance, and they were well behind it, like kind of egging you on, if you will, helping you out.
Yeah.
And Cheryl worked at Printers, so like a publishing company, and I drew up a design for a business card and got 100 printed by their really good friend, I think it was Alan, it was Alan, who also a mountain biker, just top bloke, top Kiwi, and he printed them out for free. And so I went to Crankworks handing them out. So I was starting to like try and put the word out a little bit.
I'm doing this. So this is Garage Bike Project, right?
By then, with the business cards, it was just Dan Roberts.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought of a kind of corporate side of things yet.
Yeah.
So just started doing that. And then that one night we were sat down drinking the beer, and still a lovely beer, sat there looking at the can thinking, and we were trying to think of names, and Tom went, you should call it Bike Garage Project. It's like, no, Garage Bike Project. I was like, since then that's been the name.
Yeah.
And ironically, if we do, there's a joke because a friend of my wife's, Miri, she misheard it. And so if we do good projects, it's Garage Bike Projects. But if we do bad projects, it's Garbage Bike Projects.
Nice.
So yeah, that was the start of Garage Bike Project, or just me being a freelance engineer.
Nice. What was your first paid piece of work as a freelancer?
Ironically, Scott Project.
Was it? No way.
Yeah. Scott contacted me about, I chatted to them. They knew what I was doing. I still got a lot of friends at Scott.
Yeah.
And Joe, who was then, he then became head of he was head of mountain bike, then got over to head of engineering. He contacted me about Kids Bike Project.
Oh, okay.
Which actually still love.
Yeah.
Great project. So a lot of brands in the industry had made kids bikes, bit rough around the edges to kind of put them out and test the water and see how that market reacts.
Yeah.
Turns out really good. So these second generation, if you will, of kids bikes got a lot of engineering time put into them.
Nice.
Not just in terms of like nice spec and stuff like that, which is where you can help kids bikes out a lot, but the design of them. So the engineering and the suspension, the fit, the geometry, the construction of it, the adjustability and all that stuff. So we had the project called the Mini Ransom, which their whole like kids bike thing is called Future Pro.
Okay.
So it's a Future Pro Ransom, but we call it the Mini Ransom.
Yeah.
And so we went through that and started, rather than, the concept was like the mum and dad have got a ransom and want to go riding with the kid. And so instead of just take the ransom and shrink it down, we took that concept and the layout of the ransom, if you will, because you can still do a lot within a certain layout.
Yeah.
And started from the ground up. Okay, what size riders? How big are they? Where's their center of gravity?
Yeah, yeah.
Also like their weights for like things like dropper posts and stuff.
Yeah.
Different wheel sizes, fitting the geometry in, knowing how much they weigh to know what to do with the kinematics to like make sure that the shocks aren't with like next to no PSI.
Yeah.
And if they're a regular kind of normal person PSI, maybe you don't need to use different dampeners, stuff like that.
Okay.
So try to like really think based around a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
And how a kid would ride a bike. And yeah, that was my first freelance project.
Were you nervous to go back to working with Scott? Because obviously there's that connection between stress and Scott that is the reason that you stepped away from it. Was there a worry going back?
No.
Okay.
I think Ben would say as well, my friend, that I left on very good terms.
Yeah.
he said he was impressed at how well I left. Like there was no bridges burned.
Yeah.
Even with the people that maybe played a part in that me leaving, as bad as that sounds, if you will.
Yeah.
No, there's
Okay.
still like good, still can chat with them all, and it's fine. Like left on really good terms. So no, I think I was just excited because it was like the first project that you're going to get paid a good amount, like freelance for, and it's like
cool.
proof of concept. This thing's working.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a really fun project. I still remember the day when I had a meeting on the Monday, and by that time I'd moved into Champery in Switzerland and was out riding, and the Leger Bike Club was out riding as well. And so there was like this line of kids on like 20-inch Commensals or 24-inch bike or 26-inch, and they were going down the access track in Champery.
Yeah.
And like anyone who's ridden in Champery knows that before you get to the chance to ride the World Cup track, you ride the access track. And if you struggle on the access track, the rest of the trails are probably not for you.
Okay.
And these kids were hooning. I was like, all I could think about was like, this bike's going to get ridden like that. So first thing in the meeting, we had our little agenda of things to go through. I was like, can we just revisit things like the head angle, please? I was like, can we make it a bit slacker? And told them the story and everything. And they were like, yeah,
nice.
right. I was like, wow, this is also quite cool. Like,
yeah, that's amazing.
Because as a consultant as well, and even as an engineer in a team of development people working, you have to like sometimes put forward your argument, and sometimes that's a skill or art form, if you will, in how you get across the information and persuade or
bring people with you.
Yeah. So I was quite happy with the little victories like that.
That's ace. That's cool as well, because you're facilitating the next generation, like the kids that are, smashing juniors and then coming up into elites now are people that have had the opportunity to ride these mint kids bikes that when we were little just didn't exist.
No, it's amazing. They're so nice. And I see them. There's a bunch of shops in town that use them as rental bikes. There's tons I've seen out where people have bought them. Yeah. And friends like Ben, who still works at Scott, we're talking about him a lot again. Ben also sponsors athletes now, if you will, whatever you want to call it, sponsors kids who actually ride on that bike. So little Emmerich from the 9 Les Neufrous, he rides that bike like better than I can now, and he's I think 11 or something, or 12.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's like I think that's the best part about bike engineering. Is there's many inside engineering is like one facet of all the possible professions in the world. Inside that, you've got a thread of bike engineering. And while we always come back to this like F1, if you will, being an engineer in there and stuff, you don't get to go and drive an F1 car at the weekend.
Nope. Not many people do.
And you can develop DH bikes and go and rag the living daylights out of them at the weekend and stare at them while they have a beer. And that is the best part of bike engineering by far. Is riding what you do.
It's accessible.
So good. And so seeing the bikes out in the wild, it must be weird, because if like a guy comes up to a kid and high fives him for no reason, and then my wife's like, he designed that, and the kid's like, cool, and the dad's like, what's going on? Like, but you're just so stoked to see like the bikes out there and getting ridden, and by all accounts, it's been received really well. It rides really well. Obviously, I can't ride it. I stand on it and I bottom it out, but it's been received super well.
Wicked.
And I think it proved that there is space for high-end, well-built, well-thought-out kids bikes.
Yeah, completely.
In all disciplines of like kids riding.
Yeah.
And we put 2 wheel sizes in it as well, and like adapted it between 24 and 26. So it had that kind of grow with a kid, or even the hand-me-down kind of aspect of like families and stuff. So tried to build stuff in there as well. And
nice work, man.
Yes, that was a fun project.
That's
and
cool.
By that time, I'd like got lots more ideas or influences from other people and brands and stuff, and got them in there as well.
Yeah.
So it was like lots of really cool victories. It was an enormous stamp of approval that actually the path I'd chosen and how I choose to do my work, how I choose to do this and how I choose to be creative and stuff was efficient.
Yeah.
Because I started to keep a log of all the hours and note down what I did during the day and so on, to kind of build a idea of how long things take. Yeah. Because I still find quoting one of the hardest
if you're
things.
selling your services, and you need to know, don't you?
Yeah. So I keep a very good track of what I do. And I estimate it took 25% the time to develop that bike. granted, one frame
Yeah.
and all that stuff relative to a lot of other projects that Scott would be multiple frame sizes and a bit more. But trying like for like, I think it was about a quarter of the time.
Right.
Because I could sit down for like, some of the stints were like 11 hours. Of course, you'd eat, you go to the loo, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like you were in an efficient work zone and like really productive at that high peak of efficiency for such a time. And you could, if you did that like day after day after day, or even like 3 days of that and 2 days of like 6 hours spread out with a ride, and you just like flew through the work.
Yeah.
Like putting the 3D of the frame together. And because by then I had a good understanding of what's needed in terms of, like we said, like changing the kinematics for a kid's center of gravity, height, and their weight.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do in the leverage ratio. I know what I need to do in the anti-squat. I knew. So it was just like this, like we talked about before, this beautiful path of like how you get through from start to the best bike possible. And it was like, all right, this works.
Let's just go.
I'm having it.
Yeah.
This system, this like living in Champagne in the mountains and like using that as a unique selling point. It was like, this is working.
Yeah.
There's possibility to do this. So
very nice, man. Yeah. And then like in a sort of parallel to that, you've started doing stuff with Pinkbike. What was did they approach you? Did you approach them? Where did that like collaboration come from? Because you've not gone down, you're not a journalist, right? Or you haven't been up until that point.
I don't know if any of them are journalists. No, I'll take that back. I've met a lot of people that are journalists,
but a lot of them have come from a background of being passionate about this stuff and loving trying things. And then they've worked on the writing element.
Exactly.
Of it, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to study journalism.
No.
They've effectively studied bikes. And then worked out how to write about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a job title for that.
I don't know.
Editor. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Back to your question. I approached Pinkbike. So I think anyone in the bike industry or fans of bikes, you look at the media and bike websites and so on for your information about new stuff and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the idea that there was, maybe this spawned from when I was doing my thesis and stuff, that I couldn't find information out there, that there was a lack of technical information out there.
Yeah.
And while lots is really well written, really well reported and put together stuff, there was a big lack of technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw a gaping hole in the market that someone could fill.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's have a go. So I approached Pinkbike. I'd also talked to Ben, my friend, about that, and he'd actually spoken at Crankwork. He was like, I love the idea. Ben's been a really good friend and a great guide. And he took that idea with him 1 year to Crankworks Whistler.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was 18 as well. And he sat down with Carl Burkhardt.
Yeah, like the main man behind Pinkbike. Yeah.
Big man Pinkbike.
Yeah.
Murdered his surname. Carl. Just keep it at that.
Simple.
And he also ran it through there, and Carl liked the idea as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the kind of like approval of Ben that this was a good idea. Carl had said like, yeah, let's go for this. And yeah, we got in touch with Brian Park and briefed him through the ideas of what I had and how I could bring value to Pinkbike. And that also it was complementary, and that working for the media gives you access to more bikes.
Mm-hmm.
More bikes gives you more ride time on different things, different ideas and so on, which complements you as an engineer, which further helps the media side of things. It's all like a big happy circle. And so, that started with what was it? We did a suspension analysis on a demo initially. Just to have a little idea of that. That was where that whole behind the numbers thing came from. So there was one on a demo done very early on just to see the kind of groundwork on there and if that idea could work. But the first thing was a review on a DT Swiss fork.
Okay.
Suspension fork.
Yeah.
And that was, got introduced to Mike Casimir and those guys, and started working for them. I actually turned down the chance to go out for a field trip. So they were doing those kind of group test field trips in Squamish, Pemberton, that kind of Sea to Sky corridor. And I had the Scott project going at that time, and I needed to keep cracking on that. And Brian was keen to, like, he came over, and I managed to get him to come over to Champery and ride in Champery and Morjan and see the area, and we ride together, and him have an idea of what's going on and where I'm going to be writing about and all that kind of relevance. And he was like, oh, you should come out in a few weeks for that. I was like, I had to make difficult decisions. Like, I can't.
That's a tricky call,
it's 2 weeks out of that, and then I can't, like, suddenly just bugger off for 2 weeks as much as I want to.
Yeah.
So that did the fork review for them, and it's just gone on from there.
Yeah.
And tried to do lots of the same articles that the other editors do in terms of reviews or first rides or first looks and all that stuff, but always approach it with a just different view. I never really looked at what anyone else was doing. So say if you went to a product launch, I wasn't too concerned about checking in with everyone else and what they felt. I was just like, keep my head down, do my thing, analyze it in the way that I know, and write about it in a way that if I was sat on the other side of the screen reading it, I'd have all the information that I wanted, and be like, that is all the information for me to make the best decision, and try and do it as unbiased as possibly, because there's so many people that have quite big agendas in the industry that they push.
It's not necessarily an agenda always. I think it's like it is a bias. It's something that they strongly believe because of who they are or how they're built or how they ride.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's always like agenda always feels kind of political and like charged, and whereas I think some of it is just they probably don't even realize they have these biases.
Maybe, all right, that's a fair point. Yeah, maybe it is more a bias, and some of them are a lot stronger. Like, because as you say, they haven't realized they've been shouting about it for so long. But always try to remove that from it. I don't generally think I have too many strong biases, if you per se, but always try to like not be in that point of view, and try and imagine that if I was on the other side of the screen, I'd be happy with reading that article from neutral. The position that I'm in, knowing technical stuff and like stuff like that. So be entertained, feel I've got like my money's worth, that it's a full article covering all the points and stuff, whether that be the technical details about it or the subjective ride feeling stuff as well. Always just kind of, and even now, like, don't tend to look so much at what other people write about the same products we've reviewed. A little bit. Like, I find it interesting. Sometimes it's cool to go off, and if you know that person well and you know their riding style, their preferences, how they set things up, what they like, what they don't like. Sometimes, I'll go off and have a look, because you kind of know the full picture of that person writing that review, if you will.
Are there certain people that you like respect or trust more than others, maybe, that you'll be like, it's that person that's reviewed it, I want to go and see what they've got to say? Or is it more that you understand them and you know how they're programmed and what they're into?
I think more the second half. Is more that I can understand that, because everyone's got biases, whether they're strong or weak, and preferences, and the way that they ride, the places that they ride. And sometimes that's not communicated in the reviews. They're not, that thing isn't clear to see, or not everyone knows it. So if you know it, you can then kind of sometimes fill in the gaps, or read in between the lines where they say they liked something or didn't like something, and try and
you can put in the because.
Like play a bit of Sherlock Holmes kind of behind the scenes, and go in with a bit more of a magnifying glass. A bit more of that, I think. Just like to understand the whole picture. That that idea of a fly on a wall in all the meetings, and understanding the reasons why things are the way they are. I find that fascinating.
Have you enjoyed the let's call it journalism? Have you enjoyed that side of things? It's very different.
Totally. I don't know where it came from, the writing thing, and I still don't think I write particularly well at all, but I really do enjoy it.
Nice.
And I do enjoy it for the people that I've met, the places that I've gone, the bikes and components that I've got to ridden. I, like, got the chance to ride and stuff, and that like breadth of it, I think, just really helps you as an engineer. You have to go and ride other people's things to have a reference of where you are, what your ideas are, your theories, what things feel like when you go and ride them. Like the other day riding Neko's bike, it's like 80.8 seat angle, and it was amazing to go and actually feel what that seat angle feels like, and its pros and its cons, where it feels good, like riding home and how much weight you had on your hands on the flat pavement versus like riding backwards up a trail, and how it gripped. Like, it's that kind of idea. I still love putting that feel into numbers and numbers to feelings thing.
And we let you loose in EP3 as well for the Misspent project, and gave you a pretty big word count.
Yeah, that was
again very different from doing a review or writing for a website, right? How was that?
A dream come true, because if you spend your whole childhood reading dirt, it feels like, I don't know how you describe it. Well, I think James and Ben described it best in one of your podcasts. It's just, well, I still can't remember what it was, but they do a better job. But for me, it feels like dirt.
Yeah.
It's got that feel. And they've got that vibe, and they're doing good things for the right reasons.
Oh, totally.
And thanks to you, I got to
That's so good.
meet those guys and get the chance to do stuff in like Hurly Burly and Spent and in the EP3, and like that's really nice. To do it, because it's just like, I think everyone involved in those books or any of those projects associated around Misspent are on the same page. And I think that's why they maybe contacted them in the first place, was because it's like, you want to work with them or help, even if you kind of come and sweep the floors, like kind of idea, totally. Like you just want to get involved with them and do something cool. But writing that stuff is nice because they know it's about something that you're passionate about. And you kind of have a choice in what you write. Like it's all based around getting the best possible like article out there and the best written piece. And then better than that is when you sit down with the coffee and read it, and it's a tangible. You pick it up, you touch it, you flick through the pages, you like read it. And my wife thinks I've got an agenda there with social media and all that stuff, but maybe I do. But to sit down and like take the time to read that and slow down and like, it's lovely.
It's an incredible feeling, isn't it? I remember them asking me to write something for Hurly Burly a few years ago, and it blew my tiny mind. I was just like, you what? Really? For real? Like, and then it arrives in print.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's super special.
Yeah, the EP3 one was really good as well, because I wrote all the text, and then we knew that John Gregory would do the illustrations. So he's like been involved with Dirt as well, hasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
It was like, reading through it again is cool because it's like a feeling of someone else wrote it. I can't believe that I wrote that, and I can't believe that that's in there. It's a bit like that Kid in Wonderland again kind of idea. It's like, really?
Yeah.
And then seeing what he took out of the text to do the illustrations was hilarious.
Yeah.
And
the sense of humor that he brings into that is so good.
Like a monkey strapped to a greyhound and all that stuff. It was brilliant. Now the Misspent stuff is like, I want to hold on to that for as long as I possibly can, because I cherish that kind of work. Is good. The writing side of it and all that kind of side of what I do now was, I'd say, planned but unexpected.
Okay.
That was never a big like decision from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think I explained that the decision was because I saw a gap in the media market there for technical information and stuff like that. But how that's gone and the like flow of that creative writing and writing thing is really nice. So looking forward to doing some more of that this year.
It's cool. It's what happens when you throw yourself into a world, right? Opportunities come your way, and
apparently,
good stuff happens.
No, so I've got 2 more in Hurly Burly this year.
Yeah.
That's a nice piece what we're going to do on DH bikes and Leger World Cup round.
You're going to do the
recap.
round right up.
Yeah, doing that. And then there's a couple of new ones in Spent 2.
Wicked. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Spent.
Yeah, it gets a bit bigger. From what I've heard, the format, the like size of the book is going to be a tiny bit bigger and stuff. And so, there's a couple pieces in there. One's really cool. We've just hopefully got the Ben Walker's involvement with Champery and the World Cup track and the racing and so on is quite deep.
Yeah.
And so one of them is going to be about the history of the World Cup track.
Nice.
Called Falling Off the Face of the Earth. And his brother Will at that time was a professional photographer, and so Will has just managed to, literally as we speak, get the hard drives repaired to pull the original photos off in high res to show of when they walked the diggers down the track. And they weren't diggers, they were like freaking walking machines and stuff. And to show like the Champery World Cup track and
how it was created.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've been trying to get those photos. Ben sent me a load through WhatsApp because he's got a bunch on his phone.
Yeah.
And they're not quite good enough quality for print magazines. So we were trying to, but luckily Will came through. It's taken a bit of time, but Will's come through with those photos. So
exciting stuff. Nice. I want to talk a bit more about some of your more recent work,
Yeah.
focused around downhill. So 2 projects that you're pretty heavily involved in. One is frameworks with Neko. We've touched on that. I'm guessing the Neko connection comes from his time at Scott.
Yeah, he was racing on Stad Scott, met him there. We were instantly impressed as an engineering team at how fastidiously analytical he was.
Yeah.
I mean, Brendan had signed not long before that. Brendan is a lovely bloke and just blew our minds with how he rides the bike.
Yeah.
Neko came along and within 2 weeks has told us why he was running every position on the bike, because he timed everything to be the fastest and tested it. And we were like, oh, okay, wow, you've done more testing than most of the engineering department here. Okay.
Impressive.
No, so he's ever since then he's got a really good head on him for like technical side of
For
things.
sure.
Not just riding a bike fast, but knowing what you need to ride a bike fast.
Yeah.
And that's hard to come by in the racing world.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many racers out there that could probably do what he did.
Yeah.
And start the frameworks project and have that involvement in the bike that you ride.
And get it so close to right straight away. Like even the first, there was like build issues and things that could be improved, but I don't think fundamentally the geometry and the kinematics have not hugely changed from the first one.
He has been taking notes, like
insane. Yeah,
the whole time. Like Scott, Trek, YT, Intense. Like he learned what worked, and he did that whole feelings to numbers thing as well.
Yeah,
and knew where the limits were in leverage ratios and progression and curve shape and all that stuff. And yeah, I think if you know, like we know Neko.
Yeah,
I think we're privileged to call him a friend.
Yeah,
and we know him. But for the people that don't, it's not surprising, I think, that he got it that good that quickly.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Watching how he's like been a study of downhill bikes and racing and that kind of stuff.
A story that Martin Whiteley tells, like the first time he met Neko. I think Neko was a junior. Martin was running a team there at some race in the US. And like, the juniors always sort of want to, they knew Martin's the sort of person you want to impress or whatever. Neko came straight over and was just like, right, how does this work? How many bikes do you bring? How does all the logistics work? He just wanted to know. And it's the sponge analogy, right?
Yeah.
Same as you going into Scott. He just absorbs information from people. He's always interested in whatever it is. Like,
and he's just a top bloke.
Oh,
his heart's in the right place. He's polite, kind, considerate, like great qualities as just a person before you even get into the bike industry.
And a strong work ethic.
Holy moly, yeah. Yeah. So, knew Neko since then, and a very good friend of mine, Ruben Torrenbeek, who I met at Scott as an engineer. He also didn't gel too much with Scott, and so relatively quickly, I think within a year and a half, he jumped ship and took all his ideas and started RAAW, which is a lovely little brand.
Yeah.
Which has grown since then. It's now, I think, 7 years that brand's been going, and he was the one-man band in the beginning doing engineering, design, orders, packing,
marketing,
driving the bikes around, the whole shebang. And that company has grown. And I've been privileged to be, Ruben and I share so many like things. We same taste in music, same stupid jokes, same love of riding downhill, and just a bit that kind of like, riding with him is just, we gelled instantly when we met at Scott. It was like we'd known each other for ages. And so I've been privileged to watch behind the scenes at RAAW, how that grew.
Yeah.
And he'd show me things like all the way through doing the 3D, the bikes, the original one. He'd show me bits and pieces and ask questions, and we'd talk about it and stuff. And I think he came over when I was working for Pinkbike full-time. I had a ton of bikes, DH bikes, and he came over just in his car, and we just rode DH bikes for the whole weekend and thought about them and chin scratched and stuff and everything. And at the end of that, I was just like, had such a good like weekend of riding and hanging out and technically talking and chin scratching about DH bikes that I was like, mate, is there a way that we can just do this like officially and like work together? Because it by then like bits and pieces we're doing, and like I'd help him with English text and stuff like that and translations. And he was like, let's do this.
Nice.
So that was Man, my memory's terrible for years, but it's been a few years now, like officially like working for RAAW.
Yeah.
And so we developed a DH bike at RAAW.
Yeah. The Yalla.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Yalla.
Okay.
So it's exactly the same as like Let's Go.
Okay.
I think it's from Arabic.
Okay.
Comes from a restaurant in Lisbon, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, really good restaurant.
Yeah.
In Lisbon. Originally, it was reserved for a clothing company, actually, between him and a friend who also works for RAAW as the graphics guy.
Yeah.
Julian Lemmy. And they were going to do a clothing company called Yalla. So I think they knew that one had some potential, and they saved it. Frank the Tank got unfortunately rejected as a name for that bike, and we went with Yalla. But so maybe we'll circle back to that. But to get back to Neko, so Ruben and I were developing a bike there with basically both our boxes of ideas of stuff and what was going on. And I was always updating Ben Walker on what was going on and asking him questions about different iterations of kinematics that we had and what he thought would work better with shock tune and whatnot and stuff like that. And he was like, you guys really need to talk to Neko, because he was also seeing what was going on at Frameworks there in those early days. And so we plucked up the courage, wrote a little message, got both of us to check it, sent it off to Neko, or the number that I had for Neko Mulally. And very shyly, it was like, hey, Neko, hopefully you remember I used to work at Scott. Message comes back, of course I remember who you are. I was like, holy moly. And so, started chatting with Neko, and it was originally just about, we were sharing ideas because so many of we were singing off the same hymn sheet.
I was going to say, there's quite a lot of similarity across the two, right?
Not just layout, but ethics of downhill bike, if you will. No, it's the wrong word. But
like underpinning philosophy.
The philosophies of how a downhill bike needs to be to go really fast and work with shocks and help the rider and all that kind of stuff. Like really, really similar. Yeah. And so for us, it was a great stamp of approval, because no matter how hard we ride, we're not World Cup racers.
Yeah.
So having that approval from Neko, if you will, unofficially, that what we'd chosen at RAAW and arrived at in terms of geometry, suspension design and all that stuff was correct. There's many different ways to do a bike. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but to have that approval from someone like Neko, and also then from his side, he was curious about construction things and company-wide stuff, and also just what we thought of his DH bike stuff.
It's been really collaborative, it feels like. Very open.
The whole Frameworks thing has been very like open. It's like pulled back the curtain on the idea that there's a curtain and everyone's like black magic behind the scenes. He's done a great job of that. So since then chatted more and more and more, and he wants to know what you think and stuff, and then started to do effectively a bit more work for him when he got involved in a carbon fiber rear end. He'd already got one 3D model of the carbon rear end, and the guys had literally just taken the aluminium rear end and one for one just made it like all the edges and shapes that you naturally have going from sort of rounded or radius tubes into a CNC part. They'd copied the lot, so it was one for one like aluminium shapes and stuff. So that's when I said, yo, if you want, we can put something together here where, because those guys were doing the 3D cheaper basically and a lot faster. The quality is still good, and they were doing it really well. So I was like, look, we could maybe do some feedback here to them to help you out and maybe design a bit better for a composite material and fit in some bits and ideas. And we tried to fit in that idea of maybe one day using the rear ends for a trail bike. So we looked at like trail bike cranks, chain rings, all that stuff. And so I helped him out there. And then recently he came through and actually said, I want you to do the 3D of the mainframes, the linkage for the sort of, if you will, the generation 2 of his aluminium frames. And by that point, he's gone through race seasons and tons of races, so many laps and ideas and thoughts and things of those current aluminium bikes. And he'd found out, if you will, I think he'd be happy to say that, found out the problems.
Oh, for sure. I think he's been very open on that.
Gone through them and fixed them and found solutions to that and worked them out. And so we had really good idea of what we wanted. So in terms of geometry, bike feel, bike concept, all that stuff, that's very much him. He asked me what I think, and I never try and inject my bias. Let's call it. Let's go back to that idea of bias. Never try and inject that, because I look up to him and his way of knowing what he needs out of a bike's suspension, geometry, fit, feel, to get what he needs to go fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know that as well as he does.
Yeah.
So I don't touch that idea of it. But we had the idea to try and make the aluminium frames easier to manufacture, while still being good quality, high end, well thought out. But just with the idea that if you can make it a bit easier to manufacture and the less steps in all the manufacturing and stuff, like take away tube bending and then relative of clocking the bend and the mitre and everything and all that stuff, we can then have better frames more repeatably.
Yep.
That was one of the big aims of the carbon rear end, was have repeatable quality. So yeah, we did the 3D of the whole mainframes for a DH bike. He had the idea to turn the shock again to like use a straight down. Like everything in there is driven by function, driven by performance. I have to say, calling him a client sounds weird, but he is the best person to work for.
Okay.
It's so gloriously simple.
It's all about making things better and faster.
Yeah, just better.
Yeah.
And chatting with lots of people in the industry, they chat with such a smile on their face, because there's so many brands where it's not about that.
Yeah, there's such an aesthetic driver behind things. And
then the performance is done afterwards, and then the other people, like the shock guys, have to try and fix the problems of that kind of. There's a few things out there like that. So having Neko's philosophy and his whole frameworks concept is just a dream, absolute dream to work on. And him as a person's easy to work with. So yeah, we did mainframes and links and the shock extenders for the aluminium frames that he's riding now, and all the other people on frameworks that they're riding. Yeah, as well as a trail bike. Yeah. So that's when we discovered that we fucked up.
Yeah, and the swing arm doesn't quite work.
And the carbon chainstay doesn't actually fit. So hindsight is always really clear, eh? And we realized that the one thing we missed is that when I tried as hard, we both say sorry to each other, it's funny, but I tried as hard as possible to fit all the clearances in for a trail bike, but we didn't have a trail bike kinematic.
Okay.
Neko's main pivot is quite high on the DH bikes, about as high as you can go without starting to think about idlers, which he'd tested and been through, and everyone probably knows about. But on the trail bike, he wanted it lower, quite a bit lower, to get what he was after, especially the anti-squat and the pedal kick. Yeah. And it just didn't work. So, yeah. So now I'm loving it. It's the opportunity to work more with Neko. So we're working on a new carbon chainstay with some different changes, some future stuff there on more aluminium things and bits and pieces. Yeah. And then also like collaborative things with Sai from Caustic on his steel front triangles. And like, I think more and more, like, for the reasons that Ruben and I wanted to contact him, it's just, and exactly the same reasons I think as Misspent, it's just a guy doing good things for the right reasons. Yeah. And if you align with that in life and in bikes, you just want to help out no matter what. You just like, can I help you? In
can I be
any
involved?
way, shape or form?
Yeah. Can I sweep the floor? Like, I just want to be part of this.
I just want to be part of it. Yeah. So to now, be in Fort William because he paid my hotel room is like, it's super. It's weird. I'm still a fanboy, and I still sometimes sit at breakfast and I'm like, he asked me a question and I get all nervous because it's Neko Mulally. And I'm like, you fucking idiot, you're 36 and
you've known this guy for so long.
And now I call him a friend and we joke about it, and I'm like, we joked about like, we were laughing like so crazy last night at the idea because Neko prefers a bit more progression. I prefer a bit less. That's fine. And so we joked about putting a different hole on the shock mount to have less and more progression. And so one's the Neko hole and the other one's called the Dan hole. Nice. So we're joking around shit like that. But I still have this couple moments where internally I just have to go, breathe. He's your mate.
Relax. It's okay.
Which I still find funny. And I laugh to myself about it and like the human nature things that happen. You know, it's like there's a person inside myself that laughs at myself for how I'm acting and how you are and stuff.
Mad, isn't it?
Kind of funny.
It's a strange world.
So that's the whole frameworks and Neko thing.
Nice.
Which is awesome. Like I'm actually going to fly home from here with the trail bike. Sorry, Ruben, I'm not going to take him Madonna. And go off to Canada in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to go and just rag it out there. And he said, "Do you want to
testing
take it?" I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Yeah,
Fits like a glove.
wicked.
So yeah, take that over. That's the most DH bike feeling bike with a single crown I've ever ridden.
Yeah,
And that was his aim.
but it still pedals pretty well, right?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Could spend all day on it. It's so like supportive and supple, like beautiful balance of like how it handles when you pedal but still absorbs stuff. And like
I may have already checked in with him on when there's going to be a medium frame available.
I'm doing the 3D, mate.
Good work. just put that one higher in the priority queue, would you?
455 reach.
Bang on.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Belting. It's a tiny bit short, like what are we on? 450 chain today, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Happy days.
Yeah. I'll try and sneak in let me know what you want engraved on there, because I can do the 3D for the little gussets and everything. We can have something engraved there for you.
Perfect. Thanks, mate.
Sneak it in. Nice
awesome. I want to use the word simplicity, and it's not the right word because nothing that you do is simple. But I think both the Yalla and the Frameworks bike are more simple in construction and design than quite a lot of the sort of trending bikes within the downhill circuit. We're seeing like a lot of 6-bar, 4-bar with additional bits and bobs. Like there's a lot of complexity being born into the downhill world, which I guess makes sense, right? Everyone now, everyone trains hard, everyone eats well, everyone's strong, everyone's fit. The bikes are all good, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
The suspension's good, but everyone's looking for these marginal gains. So making things more complex, people, I guess, feel there's room to find some of this stuff. Like, what's your view on simplicity versus complexity? And I'm not trying to like do down the design of the Yalla and
no, not at all.
Because actually doing simplicity well is complex and hard, right? But
I think there's a balance. It's funny, I wrote about that in EP3. There's a balance in every facet, and taking that one between simplicity and complex, I feel you need to balance it. And I think relative to current, exactly right. It's relative to current bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even before you get into analyzing them. It's just relative to like where it seems to be right now. And also filtering into like enduro and trail bikes as well.
Yeah.
Is complexity.
Yeah.
That's completely true. And so the Yallas, Neko's bike, stuff like that, lots of the other bikes I've worked on are more simplistic than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because number of links, what's going on, like all little bits and pieces. But they are still more complex than the age-old comparison of an orange. Which does work. And riding my mate's Orange 5 a long time ago taught me about predictability. Even if you did bottom out all day long, it taught me about those ideas of predictability through how the suspension curves look.
Yes.
And how valuable
and robustness as well, I guess. Like,
totally.
Yeah. Not just robustness as in it's not going to break, but you can go and pick up another Orange 5 and it's going to feel exactly the same. The tolerance, there's room for a sensible amount of tolerance, and the kinematic will remain the same.
Exactly,
whereas on an intricate 6-bar, you can move a pivot by half a millimeter.
And that's whisker.
And things change, right?
Yeah. So I think those bikes like Neko and the Yalla are sitting in a mid-ground. And sometimes just from a consumerist nature or world that we live in, that can seem a bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Because they are viewed as perhaps not
simple.
the thing.
Yeah.
The new thing is the best always, right?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And so, but no, it's a balance, to come back to your point, between simplicity and complexity. And I think it needs to take into consideration all the factors, because a bike is a system, and a bike and a rider are a system. And if you don't consider all facets of that all the time, you can push certain factors too far one way. That mean that one example that we've touched on with 6-bar suspension systems, they are very sensitive. And this is the reason why the other side of that, the ability to adjust, very fine-tune your kinematics with incredible precision in a computer, is the reason why they're chosen.
Yeah.
But then if you can't make the things if the tolerance for your pivots is bigger than how much you're moving them around, which with 6-bar is true.
Yeah.
And especially for a lot of the factories where a lot of these bikes are being made, especially the aluminium welded, there's bigger tolerances together in that aluminium welded construction, unless you start doing huge CNC parts that capture a lot of the pivots and shock mounts together. Like you see on the new Norco, that's you do big pieces that try and get as many of the pivot points together in one point.
Yeah, you can control that much tighter than you can something that's being welded together in different parts.
And you still have a tolerance on the CNC parts as well.
Yeah.
If you want really high tolerance, the prices go like through the roof and stuff. So there's a balance there. And so, maybe that is where my bias is not necessarily in being less links, but balancing it with things that aren't perhaps tangible, like construction ease and tolerances and things that people might not understand and see when they go and buy the bike.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has a technical background and understands the way a bike works.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone who has a 6-link bike might understand exactly how it works and where the instant center is and why it's moving around and that kind of like even shocks have tolerance on them. Like with Neko, he has a friend who works for Roush Racing.
Yeah.
And so we've had access to 3D scanning, like industrial grade 3D scanning stuff.
Yeah.
And so we 3D scanned a hell of a lot of the bikes. And one of the shocks on one of the bikes was 2 mil too short. It was 248 eye to eye, not 250.
Yeah.
And it was impacting the kinematics. So the chainstay at static was 463, not 460.
Yeah.
The whole bike sagged a bit.
Right? Yeah.
And so things like that happen.
Yeah.
Because you're not only bolting, like, it's just the frame points in space around. You've got links, you've got bearings and washers and shocks and everything else. Tires. Like, I learned very quickly when we were measuring tires at Scott that those things are not what they say. Like, you get a 2D drawing from the manufacturers and it is not even in spec. And it's plus/5 on whatever dimension they give you. But it's the dimensions for the OD are completely wrong.
Wow.
To the point that lots of bikes were working, like lots of 27.5 bikes were actually working when you put 29-inch wheels in them. The measured BB height was the same as what they'd quote for the smaller wheels.
Because the tire was so far.
Yeah, I had that on a Scott Spark.
Yeah.
Like I actually had a plus frame. So it's designed around 27.5 plus tires. And actually the BB was bang on geometry with a 130 fork and two 29-inch wheels in there. So the tire things is like completely out there. Fork, axle to crown's completely different. Like, so there's so many other things outside just the frame that have a tolerance on them. And I do appreciate and I like that idea because I'm a geek of manipulation of suspension kinematics. But to a point, you start to get like diminishing returns and even risk just not having what you're riding, or not riding what you've designed.
Yeah, and maybe not knowing that either.
Yeah, totally.
Unless you've got the ability, like you say, with a 3D scan or a jig or something to measure very accurately where you're at.
Yeah, so I think we can pull that idea of suspension, number of links out, and try and single it out and look at whether more complex is better or less complex is better. But it's always tied to something else.
Yeah,
always and forever tied to something else. And that's the thing that, for me, keeps bikes interesting and the development of them is that interlinking of every single thing. And the fact that we still don't know half the things and how they interact.
Yeah.
Chassis flex is like an immense topic that it's taken like MotoGP guys ages to figure out.
With a lot bigger budgets than the bike industry.
To not just figure out, but also to like understand how to control it.
Yeah.
And then manipulate it for different riders on different tracks. And that's even like flat tarmac where the undulations are... Like mountain biking is just, that's why it's also so tricky.
Yeah.
Like trying to hit the same line twice on Fort William is like, good luck. Like it's so volatile and so changing. And that, as my mate Ben Walker says, like you're a little 1/4 horsepower motor moving violently all over the place.
Yeah.
And your weight relative to the bike is enormous.
Yeah. And
so that has a profound effect on like how the whole system works.
Much harder to model, much harder to predict. Yeah.
Not impossible, but like magnitudes harder to analyze, predict,
completely
work with.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why it's so interesting.
It's very
And that's
cool.
why like maybe the coming years and decades of bikes are going to be even better.
Yeah.
Maybe there isn't a plateau. Maybe there is as well, but like as things are advancing and new technologies are becoming available and all this stuff, especially for racing with like electronics and automation and suspension and that stuff.
Yeah.
in a racing application, then maybe we've got some really cool things to come. And it's not like the next big thing kind of idea. It's that constant like refinement and
constant iteration and improvement. Yeah.
So maybe it's cool.
Nice. Well, I feel like I could geek out probably for another 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
But there's a World Cup qualifying going to happen in the not too distant future. So we should go and get onto the hill.
Yes, mate.
And shout out some riders and see what's going on.
I'm up for that.
And maybe we can do a part 2 at some point.
I'd be well up for that. I like geeking out. Yeah. And I know that your background is very
it's fairly geeky.
Directed towards that as well.
Nice. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you 2 really quick questions.
Yeah.
Piece of advice for someone that wants to work in the bike industry. What would be your best advice?
Badger anyone. Don't give up.
Yeah.
It's true. Who you know, not what you know.
Mm-hmm.
The doors are sometimes not open and you need to bang on them a lot to get in.
Yeah.
Be a sponge.
Yeah.
If you're a new engineer coming into this industry, or even an old engineer, just be a sponge. Don't come in and try and prove yourself because you're young. That idea. Just be a sponge. Absorb. Yeah. Maybe in the end you do end up being a figure in the industry, but that shouldn't be the goal.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the driver. Just try and learn and ride your ass off. Ride as many different bikes as possible. Work on your bikes. Wrench them. Like study analytical things as well. Like have that trifecta of like mechanics, appreciation for like the mechanical side of bikes and working on them, how they go together. Ride the hell out of them, put feelings to numbers.
Nice.
And also just be a good engineer.
Good advice. I like it. And I'm going to pick one out of our final 4 questions. If you could wind the clock back and sit down with yourself age 16, what advice would you give him?
Whoa. Frankly, nothing.
Okay.
Because I think if I did know, as much as I look back and think like we talked about with the Intense M1 and would have minded a bit of knowledge about how that thing works, if I change anything, I'm nervous that I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, okay.
And I really, really love where I am today. Like I love the fact of life is bikes and bikes are life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to change that for the world. I wouldn't want to change losing my hair for the world because that taught me a shit ton about like self-perception and like it's none of my business what other people think of me kind of idea of life. And so it
doesn't matter what other people think if you do.
No.
Yeah.
I think I'm an idiot. But honestly, no, I think I'd just not say anything and watch.
Yeah.
Just kind of quiet nod. Probably like you could say, be better with money. Get your head down and work. Like,
again, it's a learning, right?
Yeah, I screwed up there, and now it taught me the value of like, or the ideas of money and all that. I wouldn't. Maybe it's a weird answer, but I wouldn't say anything.
Okay.
I wouldn't advise myself to go any different for fear of not being where I'm at now and being so happy with it.
Yeah, that's good, mate. I'm stoked. I'm glad you're happy. I always enjoy hanging out and chatting and
cheers, mate. Me
watching
too.
Racing. If people want to like follow you, check you out, is there a website? I know you're not a social media kind of guy, but obviously they can look at frameworks, they can look at RAAW website. But
no, there's a website, garagebikeproject.com.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's getting updated with all the various facets of projects and writings I've worked on.
Yeah. They can look in EP3, Hurly Burly,
yeah,
Spent
you can read all that. Have a look in some of the framework stuff. RAAW is a big brand I work for as well, so there's always stuff coming out there.
Yeah.
Just out and about.
Nice.
Trying to not like actively that like hunt to put myself out there, if you will, but just work with cool projects, and like it's kind of cool. I've ended up working with 2 mates on DH bikes
it's
in
amazing,
the end. So like it's pretty. No, garagebikeproject.com.
Nice.
It's basically the main place where people can see
good
about the engineering work I do.
All right, I'll stick a link in the show notes. People can find that. Thanks, mate. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Let's go watch some racing.
All right, mate.
Wicked. Cheers, Dan.
Toodaloo.